Sure, abuti honestly.
With a newly appointed MEC for Environment for the province of Gauteng, Ewan Botha. Good morning, MEC. Thank you for the opportunity. And you come all the way to Eldorado Park and you addressed a few primary school kids on recycling. How important is recycling to you and your department?
So this is actually a critical element of the department. I think it's not a secret that most of Gauteng's landfill sites are now getting to a point of capacity. They're becoming full, and we're looking at ways to divert the waste away from these landfill sites. So when you consider recycling as a whole, not only is it important for those landfill sites, it's also important for the cleanliness. It's also important for illegal picking, because if you look at the Grootkoppes landfill here, people are burning a lot of plastic on top of that landfill site, and that is contributing to the air quality of Gauteng being really bad. Then if you consider it even further, the recycling itself is actually an enormous gap in the market, and I think what we've seen here today is quite exciting, with people trying to fill that gap in the market and create employment through the recycling itself. So it's an absolutely critical part of the portfolio.
Let me see what most South Africans do not realize is that recycling is a multi-billion business. And which steps will the department be taking to ensure that the word gets out to more communities that this is a way to lessen the unemployment gap as well?
So look, I think that this is actually a multi-pronged approach. It's not something that we can simply say, oh, we need the community to do this. So maybe from the government's perspective, creating that awareness is an important role. But I think this is also something that needs to be regulated. It needs to be legislated to say, look, X amount of the landfill sites actually need to go off and be used for, whether that's waste to energy, waste to consumables, whether it's recycling itself, whether we're turning that into some sort of product. So, we need to play our role as government as well to say this is what it would look like from a regulated space. And then we also need to regulate the waste pickers as well. So I think that there's a number of steps that we need to take, particularly in the next sort of year to 3 years, in terms of regulating this. And then, on top of that, allowing, because this is kind of what government needs to do. We actually need to create the space in which businesses and markets can thrive. There's a gap in the market, and through these regulations, we need to take those particular steps. And then also, in terms of supporting the buyback centres, setting up the buyback centres, and investing in those buyback centres as governments.
And then you mentioned, MEC, about the Grootkoppes, or what we know as Lapland in Eldorado Park. That has been an eyesore, especially for the community living in Extension 2 and Extension 4, with the smell, and also recently there was the water that's contaminated with the Is there steps to closing down? Because every MEC over the past few years and MMC has said it's coming to an end another year. How long do your department perceive that it will take to close Grootkoppes completely?
So look, I think this was one of the first things that I actually came to deal with after I was sworn in, was Grootkoppes, because I know that this has been a big issue for the area for a long, long time. And again, you mentioned water contamination. We're mentioning the air contamination. I've discovered that there's a court order for it to be closed down. There are trucks that are moving around on top of the landfill sites that you see quite frequently. These trucks are supposed to be bringing in rubble, right, to put on top of the refuse so that they can start to rehabilitate the actual mine itself. I don't want to say to you that this is going to be a 6-month project, or this is a big problem. We're finding issues around an informal settlement with zamazamas that are taking over certain landfill sites throughout Gauteng. And this is something that needs to be dealt with through safety and security as well. So this is actually a really big operation that we need to pay very careful attention to. I've requested that my office starts to run blitzes on the landfill site at Grootkoppes, so that we can start to understand whether or not what's being brought in through Pick It Up is actually in accordance with the court order, and that they are actually starting to rehabilitate the mine. Then again, I spoke earlier about those regulations to say that, your landfill site license should actually be dependent on how much of that you're recycling and how much of that you're taking from waste to energy. So that's also going to be the next step to say, but okay, Pick It Up, you said that you're going to rehabilitate this now, but now we actually want to see you getting rid of it. So these are, again, it's a lot of factors that come in And I'd love to be the guy that comes in and says, don't worry about it, in 6 months' time, this is all going to be sorted out. The reality is that there are a number of factors that are influencing this particular thing. And I think from my side, what I'd really like to achieve first is to get them to stop burning the plastics on top of on top of goudkoppies, because that is impacting the air quality here terribly. People are going to start suffering with respiratory disease. We're aware of these things. So I've asked my teams to start running those blitzes, and as you can see, I'm very committed to coming to Eldorado Park and making sure that we're on top of these things. So yeah, I'll be reporting on this quite frequently going forward.
MC, maybe closing question from me. I know we took up enough of your time. And lastly, just on the G20, you just did mention earlier that the G20 is coming and we need to be prepared for that. As you mentioned that you'll be doing a tour just to spread awareness regarding this campaign to clean up our cities. What are your expectations, and do you think we'll be able to achieve before the G20?
So I think in terms of achieving, that's perhaps not the right question. Achieving a clean area is something that's very doable. And I'll speak more on these campaigns as soon as I've bedded down, because I've got an intergovernmental relations meeting in August where I'm going to be speaking to all of the MMCs throughout Gauteng to say, look, how do we go about cleaning the area? That's not the issue. The real question is, how do we do this in a manner that's sustainable? How do we do this in a way that the public actually isn't sitting there going, of course they cleaned it for G20, right? Because yes, the area will be clean for G20, but how do we make sure that beyond that our communities are actually thriving and enjoying a clean environment? So I think that's the real sticky situation now. And you look at the money that we've received for G20, and I mentioned it in my budget speech, how much we've actually received. It's a number of various blocks. I think it's 50 million, 20 and 10. And the question is, how do I take that money and ensure that there are going to be skips that are available, skips that are collected, street furniture that's actually contributing to a cleaner society, and not just putting something down for the purpose of beautification for G20, but something that's actually going to serve the communities long after G20 is done and dusted. So we've got 18 CBDs that we need to be cleaning, 18 areas within Gauteng that we need to be cleaning for the G20, but I don't want to stand next year and give the same budget speech and be asking for the same money to clean the same areas. So we need to deal with the matters of illegal dumping. We need to raise awareness with the communities, because what will happen is if you forget to take your bin out on a Tuesday, let's say they collect on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday you just go to the closest illegal dump site and you dump there. So we need the community to play their part. We need the community to understand not only the importance of recycling, but the importance of illegal dumping, and the fact that it actually costs both the city and the province millions and millions and millions every year to keep cleaning those same places. So I really urge all of the community members, please, if you are going to dump, please go and do it at a designated dump site, at a pick-it-up facility. That will help us in preparation for the G20, but it will also mean that after the G20, any money that we receive, any money that we get to spend, will actually go into improving the environment as a whole, not just continuing to do the same things.
Any final message you want to give to not only the community of Eldorado Park, but the broader community of Gauteng on eradicating illegal dump sites? Because they are an eyesore, as you just mentioned. Pick it up comes on a Tuesday, or an hour later after the truck has passed, we find our communities dumping and contributing to the filth that is within our communities.
Sure. So again, I think the issue here is just the first step is to make sure that your bins are out on time. I really urge that we ensure that our bins are out on time. If you can separate at home, if you can take your recyclables out and put it one side and you've got your food on another side, please also take care to do that. So those are important roles that we play. And then, there's so many communities that I've been to over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks that I've been in office, where they say to me, this dump site is here today, it's cleaned up, City of Joburg comes out or the province comes out, they clean the dump site. By 12:30 that night, people are there dumping again. So we really urge the community to be vigilant, to report any illegal dumping. If you know that it's your neighbor that's doing it, please make us aware so that we can also take steps. Prevention is so much better than a cure. So we really urge the community to play their role in these, in keeping the illegal dumping to a minimum. But beyond that as well, we as government need to make commitments that your bins are going to be picked up on time. And this is where we need to keep entities like Pick It Up honest. And I think they do a fairly good job of it. But yeah, just to play your role as a community to ensure that the illegal dumping isn't becoming a bigger problem, and to educate yourself around what waste can go away.
Thanks a lot, MEC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, MEC.
Cool.
That 3 minutes turned into 10 minutes.
Sure, I would do honestly.